All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Simon?
Yeah. So I'm originally from India. Uh, I lived there, I was born and brought up there, South India. I lived there for about till, 2014.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was born, I'm 34 now, so long time. Yeah, so I was born in 2014. I was there till 2014. Then I moved to Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, in 2014, end of 2014. So I'm a software engineer by profession. So because of my work and the company that I work for, they sent me to Fort Worth to work over there.
Okay.
And I worked there for 5 years, close to 6 years. Then I moved back to India for a year. Actually, I was supposed to move from there to Montreal directly, but because of COVID and all that, I had to move back to India, and I stayed in India for like a year and just moved here in October of this year,
Okay.
Montreal.
Okay. Well, um, how do you like Montreal's weather?
Weather, it's cold. Obviously, it started snowing here, but I think I'm able to manage the cold. It's not. I thought it will be more of a hassle, and I live in the downtown area, so
Okay.
all the snow and ice gets cleaned up pretty fast. So, but I'm able to handle the cold so far.
Okay. Okay. Well, tell me about your upbringing. Were you raised in, was there religion in your home when you were where you were raised? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So for like my family, most of my like all my parents and grandparents, all of them were Christian. As far as I know, maybe my great grandparents, they were Hindus, maybe.
Okay.
So I know one grandparent, like immediate, like my mom's father, he was a Hindu, and he converted to Christianity.
Okay.
But most of the others, as far as I know, they're all Christian, and that is like maybe 2 or 3% of the population. So it's yeah. But from where I come from, south of India, people are more tolerant of Christianity.
Okay.
So it was not too difficult for us to live and be Christian kind of.
Okay.
I've heard stories like in north of India, it's a little tougher for people to be Christian, and especially faithful practicing Christians. Yeah. So and it's funny because when we were small, I used to live with my grandparents. Like it was like a joint family. So my parents and we used to live in my grandmother's house, my father's mother's house, and grandfather passed away before I was born. So we had a small church in our house itself for a few years, and none of my father said no one's a pastor, but a pastor used to come and do the church over there on Sundays.
Okay.
Then I think when I was 5, we moved out of my grandmom's house. My father built another house and we moved there. And then we used to go to a Lutheran church, which was a little far away from our home, but we used to have a car, which is kind of a big thing in India to have a car, especially when I was small. So, but we sold the car when I was like 10. So after that, we started going to a church close by to our home, and this was a Pentecostal church.
Okay.
So even for Christians, those are like poles apart, going from a Lutheran church to a Pentecostal church. We always used to pass by the church when we were kids. and we could hear the music and the loud screaming and all that. And so for some reason, because we couldn't go so far on a motorcycle, we were a family of 4, my mom, dad, and my older brother and me. And we couldn't travel so far on a motorcycle. So we started going to the Pentecostal church close to our home. And it was like the first few Sundays, I remember I used to actually close my ears because the music was so loud. Yeah, so, and the pastor used to egg us on to like jump, dance around, move, worship the Lord. And especially me and my brother, we were like standing pillars over there. Yeah, it's funny, like, but slowly we got to know the people, and the community started to build around that church. And it used to be like more of a nominal thing for me, at least. And maybe until I was like 19 or 20. So I did for Indians, it is pretty common to do their engineering degrees. Yeah. So I did my engineering degree in my hometown, and when I completed the engineering degree, I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And at this point, this is like, I can say around 2008. So just when I finished, I was like 21. And I was wondering like what I want to do. Like I had a mechanical engineering degree, and I also had a job of a software company as an IT professional in hand. Although the degrees don't match, I somehow was able to get that job. So, but I didn't really want to go and do that. I was trying to find out like what interested me and what I wanted to do. And at this point, I was like, okay, if there is a God, and if He created me, I think if I ask Him, He'll tell me what I should do. Kind of naive, but that's how I
don't think it's naive.
Maybe what I was subconsciously expecting was God will tell me, you go here and you do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the naive part.
Well, sometimes He does that. He certainly doesn't always.
Yeah. So yeah, that's true. So, and the only way I knew was being brought up in like a Christian family and all, was to read the Bible and pray. So I started reading the Bible and I started praying. And actually at this time, it was like 2008, and that was when the recession hit actually. So although I was selected to go to this software company, they didn't actually call me. So I had a period of around a year where I was not doing much. So during this time, I started praying and reading the Bible. And at points, like verses used to hit me. Like in Proverbs, it says, lean not on your own understanding, but trust in the Lord, and He will direct your steps. So certain verses started hitting me, like, I didn't know what exactly they meant. And even now, I'm still trying to figure out what they mean. But they started coming out, like the word started coming out. And what was significant was actually Matthew 6:33. So that whole portion where it says like, why do you worry about what you want to eat, drink, or wear? Look at the birds, look at the sparrow and the lily of the valley. And even Solomon was not arrayed in all his glory, was not as arrayed as that. But the point was, you have to seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Now, I don't know what happened, but this set of verses kind of caught me. And at this point, actually, it was almost like 8-9 months since I was just sitting at home, and my parents were asking like, "What do you want to do? Um, you have this a job in hand. Do you want to go there, or professionally, do you want to do anything?" I was like, "I have this verse in hand, uh, and I want to see what it means." And still, like I was saying, subconsciously, I was thinking I maybe wanted more direction. But maybe God was telling me that not the direction, but how you have to live your life.
Mm.
But still, I didn't know what seeking the kingdom of God and what is God's righteousness. Is it like Christ, or is it something else, or is it following commandments? I'm still trying to figure out. But when I told this to my parents, they were a little worried. Like, what, does he want to become a pastor, or or does he want to just become like some go into the ministry? That was a
Yeah.
term. And my family, although we were in the church thing and all that, we becoming a pastor and all that, that was like that's a big risk you want to take.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that or not? And so, and I spoke to a few other people around, and like somehow I got convinced by my parents and others around me to actually pursue the job which I had in hand. And so I took up the offer. I left my hometown, and this was like sometime in March of 2009. And I started working in the software sector from then on. Now, so actually 5 months after that, like in August of 2009, my father passed away. So it was a road accident. Like,
oh my.
Yeah. So the bus, a bus hit him from behind.
Oh
and
my. He was on his motorcycle?
Yeah, motorcycle.
Oh.
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but to put a positive spin to it, like he didn't get so badly injured in the accident.
Yeah.
But while they were transporting him to the hospital, there were like some internal injuries that caused bleeding, and he passed away. And I received the phone call. Like, I was now in a different state actually. So that was like almost a day's journey on train, and flights were there. But yeah, so I actually booked a flight back home, but the flight was the next day. Flights are not that frequent to my hometown, but luckily we had an airport. So I came home the next day. And so the thing with deaths in India is they actually keep the dead body in the house. Like, they put the dead body in like a freezer in the house. So yeah, so I remember entering my home, and it was like and it's different from how it's in the US. Like, the whole neighborhood is there. The people from the church will be there. They'll be singing, and there'll always be a hub around. Like, and yeah, so I came home, and actually they were waiting for me to actually do the burial, so that I could arrive. And then, so yeah, so one important thing here was actually, so I touched my father's dead body, and it was like, what do you say? There was nothing like. Like, I've seen my grandparents die and all, but obviously it's different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so when I touched it, it was like there was an emptiness. Like, it was just like a soft cushion, you can say. Like, it was not like there was life. So yeah, this was a significant thing for me. And since I went to another city, and I still had that, what do you say? And that connect was there with God. Like I felt like God really spoke to me through these verses, and I was, you can say, I was like trying to know more of Him through the Bible, through prayer, and those kind of things. Yeah. So after this, I was numb for like a few months. So I actually took paid leave off from paid time off from my work, and stayed at home for a few months to stay with my mom, and then I moved back. But I didn't know what to make of the death and all that. It was a little hard, and I felt numb. And my mom, she was like completely broken. Although, yeah, she was a professional, like not a housewife. Like in India, it's pretty common for women to be housewives. Like, but she was a teacher, and although she had some things to do on her own, she was really attached to my father, and so it was a little tough for her. Like even now, like it's been 12 years, but I can still say that she has not really gotten over it.
Yeah. It's not uncommon.
Yeah. So it was like, and is it okay if I share something like?
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, the sin part of it, before I actually. I used to have a problem with porn and masturbation earlier. So, and ever since I started reading the Bible in that free time, and I felt that connection with God, it was like I stopped doing all that. But after the death of my father, again, all these things started slowly creeping back in. I didn't know how to justify it, but yeah, it was just that it was coming back. All these old habits, you can say, they were coming back in. And for me, that, but it was never that I lost that trust in God or anything like that. I felt like His presence was always there. So, but on and off, I used to like, maybe once a month or once every 2 months or something. I used to watch porn and masturbate and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, but the city I moved to, I started going to another church over there where I worked. And this was like a smaller church. And the thing in India is the state where I moved to, it's not the language that I speak. So I had to travel like 2 hours every Sunday to actually go to an English speaking church, because I didn't know how to speak the local language. So and the church which I used to go to was like a charismatic small family church kind of a thing, maybe around 30-40 people. So it was quite like the community was there even in that place, like all and it being an English speaking church, we used to have different people from different states coming in over there. So every Sunday I used to go there. Probably sometimes I used to travel on the Saturday itself and stay over there for the weekend, because it was a long commute for me. So there I built up good friends and good relationships. But slowly, along with this hidden part, which I never really shared with anyone, I also started like thinking about the idea of suffering and death, and contemplating on this, and reading Job. And although I never really understood what was happening in Job, so I used to read that and try to, and I started looking into like apologists actually speaking about suffering, and how do you equate a God of love and God of suffering and those kind of things. And and also like the questions that atheists bring around, like what about the God of the Old Testament commanding people to be slaughtered, and these kind of questions I started bringing up in church also, because I wanted to understand. Someone might have an answer for these kind of things. So what is it about? And here I actually developed a close relationship with another friend of mine. He actually worked in the same company that I work for, so that connect was there. And his story is entirely different. His father is like an atheist, and he named him actually Lenin. Yeah. So there are two names. Like the first name is an Indian name, and the second name is Lenin. So you can understand what kind of a parent he had.
Yeah.
So hardcore atheist, communist kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And communism is not like a bad word in India. Like it's another way of looking at things.
Okay.
And so it was like but he came to Christ through a person from YWAM. Do you know YWAM?
Yeah.
With a mission. Yeah. So a friend from YWAM actually brought him to Christ, and his outlook was different from people who are brought up in Christianity, even for an Indian context. So the questions that I used to raise, and he and I had a good dialogue, and we used to, and I did confide in him about my thing with porn and all that, like kind of like a accountability between both of us. Yeah. And both of us, we were like, there was a hunger to know who God is more.
Yeah.
And he that church had a charismatic bent to it. So, and this friend of mine, he used to see a lot of visions and those kind of things. And although I never had that thing to me, I really wanted to pray. So he and I, we joined together. We decided we'll start praying. Actually know this God. And we had this, we coined a term called the tent of meeting. So in Exodus, where God comes into the Holy of Holies, right?
Yeah.
So he coined the term, and we decided to pray. So every Friday, once a month, we just used to come together, and we used to pray almost through the night. And people from our church, they also joined. So but the thing was, there were a few weird things that happened during the time of prayer. Like one instance was all of us were in a circle and we were praying, and another friend, he actually got pushed out of the circle.
Wow.
And I'm still skeptical of what happened, because I have that bent to me. I don't take things as they are. So, but what he said was he felt he was pushed out of the circle, like something was trying to break the prayer.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
For me at least. But we prayed around him, and we just started praying for him, and he started prophesying about the country and all that. There was a lot of weird things that were happening, like, and I didn't really know what to make of it. But the time of prayer was really encouraging for me, and we were continuing. We did like for 4 or 5 months we were continuing to pray together and meet. But the friend of mine and who actually started the prayer, he had a falling out with the pastor of the church. Like, so there were certain things that they wanted to bring into the church, which he was not in line with. They brought like an outside consultant.
They brought a what?
an outside consultant.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Somebody who can organize the church. And my friend, he didn't like it because they were trying to make it more of like a corporate venture kind of thing. And I understand both sides of the story, like why the pastor was doing it and why my friend was against it. Because I remember you, one of the videos you said, there's always that, what do you say, that conflict between the church as an organization and a body.
Yes. Yes.
That conflict is there.
Yes.
So I could see both sides of it, but the way they handled how my friend brought out the opposition, he was like an elder of the church, so they made him sign an agreement that he won't be taking part in any of the church activities or not get it.
My.
There was a lot of basically the whole situation left a bad taste in my mouth. Like,
yeah.
Because I could understand both sides of it, but since this friend was close to me, I could see why he felt that way.
Yeah.
And he moved out of the church. I still stayed on, but I slowly started getting a little disgruntled. But I still continued with the church, and I still maintained a relationship with this friend. And during this time, actually, two other things happened. Actually, like my church back in India, I was part of the music band. I used to play the guitar. So a few friends who were still back in my hometown. It was like a period in one friend in 2013 and 14. So in 2013, the drummer of the band, he passed away, and he was around my age, like mid to late 20s. And it was a shock to me. And I came back home, and what I found out was that he was actually having a problem with his liver. And so it was some complications related to jaundice, but he didn't want to get it treated. He did not reveal to anyone that he had that issue. So just a little background on that friend. He had a very tough life. Like he didn't have a steady job. And the thing in India is you have to support your family in some, your parents and your.
Yep.
So he was not in a position to actually support his family, and he was very disappointed with the way his life was going. So he got into drinking and all that kind of thing. And he just let the disease take him. He didn't really reveal to anyone that he had that disease.
Wow.
And so I went home for the funeral, and it was just like, and people started saying, oh, it was God judging him because he led a life of sin that he didn't reveal to anyone. He used to go and drink and all that. And that
was drinking secretly?
Right. Yeah, because ours being a Pentecostal church, all this is very strict, you know. Yeah, so that was about this friend. And the very next year, another friend in the same band, he and I learned the guitar together. So we were quite close there. He passed away in like a fire accident. He used to work for one of the electrical grids, and there was like some kind of an accident, and it burnt his body. And
oh my!
So here actually, this was more vivid. This is more vivid in my imagination because when I went back home, and this was all in my hometown, and I was living in another place.
Right.
So when I went back home, we actually had to go to the morgue to actually get his body released because this was an accident in like a public area.
Right.
And the situation there is the morgues are not so well organized like in the US or any of the Western countries. So the people who actually keep the bodies and do the autopsies, they're not doctors. They're like lower level workers who actually get drunk to actually go into that place.
Oh my.
because the morgue is like that.
Hmm.
So the whole situation was we were trying to get our friend out by bribing those people
Right. Right.
and trying to
Yeah.
get them out. And I remember the situation there. There was like a different group of people, and the lady was crying, and we found out that her son was also inside, and for some reason his head got cut off, and
Oh my.
and these are like pretty common occurrences, like in India. Like if you want to see, like that's what I understood. Like if you want to see suffering and death and meaninglessness of life and how it ends and all that, you just go to a morgue in any big city in India, and you'll see it every day.
Mm.
But it struck me, like all these things that have happened related to the deaths of my friends, of my father, and all that, and I didn't know what to make of it. Like, uh, what is it about?
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, like, what I can do about it. How do I pray? And I had this connect. I felt I had this connect with God, where I felt He spoke to me and out of the Bible. And there were times when when we prayed as a church in a close community. There were things I've seen which I don't know about, but somewhere there is something about God. Uh, so, and right around this time, late 2014, I got the opportunity to actually move to the US.
Mhm.
So I moved to Fort Worth, Texas. So there I started working again. So
Mhm.
so
Did you go
there,
to a church when you went to Texas?
yeah. So actually, the thing was, when I moved there, I just wanted to have some time on my own
Yes.
to actually figure out. Like, I was not so happy with what the church was doing, like uh, with my friend, and the way they uh, handled
Yes.
the that thing, and all these questions that I had, and I just wanted some time to figure it out. So I
Yes.
thought, I think this was pride in me saying, no, I can figure it out on my own, kind of thing. So for a period of like 2 3 years, I didn't really go to a church.
Hmm.
Uh, I wanted to figure things out, and all this while, that hidden thing about the porn and masturbation was still there.
Yeah.
It was not like I was addicted to it,
Yeah.
but every once in a while I used
Yep.
to do that,
Yep.
and it was like uh, so. But at one point, actually around 2017, I realized I was straying away a lot, like
Mm.
the way I think and relate to God and all
Yep.
this. And I just prayed about it. And a friend told me, actually, few of my friends with whom I was still in contact with, they were a little worried. Why is this guy not going to a church, or what is he doing there? So through a friend of a friend of a friend, like they told there's this church in um, they told me about Acts 29 church. It was
Hmm.
a big church. Like I think it's called the Village Church. Matt Chandler, I think
Okay.
he's a
Yep. Yep.
big thing in
Yeah.
Texas.
Yep.
Yeah. So one of the branches of that, like not the big church, but one of the branches, I visited that church uh, sometime in 2017, because I realized I think I'm straying too far away, and it might be bad for me. And I don't know if it's my realization or if it is God telling me or what, but that's what happened.
Hmm.
And I was like, what? Then I went to the church. It was like maybe a 300 people congregation or something.
Hmm.
So it was not a mega church by mega church standard, but not a small place as well.
Hmm. Especially coming from
And
India.
yeah, yeah. So and even in Texas, they're like these huge churches.
Yeah. Yeah. There are.
Yeah. So it was like they had the the regular service, like how any contemporary place does it. and I didn't really talk with anyone, just said hi to a few people, and I
Mhm.
was walking out. But as I was walking out, they have those um, uh, things where they have like to get connected to the church or something like
Yep.
that. Right?
Yep.
The places where you can go in and give your details and you can get connected.
Mhm.
I just walked past it. And the thing is, although I was in the US for 3 years, I never really interacted with anyone from a church setting that much.
Mhm.
And this was a predominantly a white church. Like
Mhm.
most of the people, they were not like, there are of certain few Indian churches, like
Mhm.
people but I didn't really want to go there.
Mhm.
So I went to this church for some reason, and I just walked out because I never really spoke with anyone.
Mhm.
But as I was walking out, I remember this. There was something in my head telling me, "Okay, if you walk out now, you'll never come back here."
Wow.
So I don't know what that was. Like just a voice in my head, I can say.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
and so I decided, okay, I'll walk back. And I walked back and I gave my details. And the person who was taking my details, he was, I think he might be somewhat your age maybe.
Okay.
And he was like, what do you want to do in church? He asked me. He said, I want to pray. So it's like, okay, we don't have anything for prayer, but you can come home, he said. We have a home group, you can be part of that. And
Mhm.
he invited me over.
Mhm.
And slowly I started going to that home group.
Mhm.
And it was like, and I started developing relationships in that smaller community of people and started bringing my questions over there. And it was different, like how Christians think in,
Yeah.
in Texas, Bible Belt of Texas, and
Yes.
how
Yes.
how we think, and it was interesting. But one thing was that this friend of mine, his name is Mark. So Mark and his wife, they used to lead the home group,
Mhm.
and so few months into the home group, we came to know that Mark's wife was actually suffering from cancer.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, and it was like some form of rare form of cancer,
Mhm.
which doesn't get easily treated.
Mhm.
So as we were part of this home group, we could actually see her deteriorate
Mhm.
slowly, like it was like her body started shrinking, and
Mhm.
but she was very hopeful, like uh, God will definitely do a miracle for me, kind of.
Mhm.
And even Mark and her name was Janet. So Mark and Janet, they used to pray a lot about it. and 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 since I said I wanted to pray,
Yeah.
Mark, Janet, and I, and few other people from the church, and most of these were older people.
Mhm.
So they used to do a prayer on Wednesdays,
Mhm.
which got discontinued. But since I said I wanted to do, he said, okay, let's start it back. So we started that back. Sorry, my
It's
phone
okay.
is. I actually connected my phone as a webcam. So
Oh, that's fine. Phones work pretty
yeah,
well for that, actually.
yeah, yeah. So am I visible now? I
Yeah.
just
Yeah. You're fine.
okay, okay. Yeah. So actually, we started to pray on Wednesdays. We used to pray for healing for Janet and for the church.
Mhm.
But nothing, like she only got worse, and slowly she had to use a walker, and after some time she couldn't even walk.
Mhm.
Uh, and then Mark stopped coming for the prayer, but
Yeah.
still I continued with the other people in the church, like whoever I made a connection with during the prayer time. we started praying, and even the pastor of the church, he also used to come and pray along with us. So it was like um, we were praying for healing, and nothing really happened. And I remember one instance where we actually, as a church, small group of people, we visited Mark's home and we prayed for Janet. Like,
Yes.
it was getting to be almost certain that she's going to pass away.
Yeah.
And at that time, I remember I was just saying bye to them. Like, we
Yeah.
prayed, we did everything, and we were coming home.
Yeah.
And I just hugged her and I started crying.
Yeah.
So that point, it was like, I didn't know why I was crying. I didn't want to cry, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but she held me and she started to pray for me. It was the opposite.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it was like, at that point, I felt something like, it's not really about what do you say, the suffering.
Mhm.
Like, you went about it. The question was to me. I went about it at, why suffering? Why is there suffering? Why do people have to die? But that is not the primary point. Like, suffering is not the point. Even in all of that pain, the way she prayed for me, although I don't remember what she prayed, it's like somehow I felt God was there in that situation. I can't really like pinpoint saying that, okay, this is what it is and all that. But somehow I felt, and even till now, I remember that situation. So a few months after that, she also passed away. Yeah, and but still, I started becoming a closer friend to Mark, actually, through this.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that mostly in American communities,
Mhm.
like, people say you have to give the grieving widows some space
Mhm.
and those kind of things. But actually, I felt he was more lonely after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in whatever way I could, I was trying to be a good friend to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started reading Job again,
Mm.
both of us together, and it was like just trying to make sense of it all, and it was at during this point I actually started watching a lot of Jordan Peterson videos.
Okay.
Yeah, so around actually around the 2018 time frame, 2018 to 2019, somehow I came across his videos and I started watching the biblical series, and the main thing that then the Sam Harris debates that were there, that was a big thing. I used to rewatch them again and again. I didn't understand what exactly was happening, but
Mhm.
the way he defined God and
Yeah.
all that, that was new. Like, it was totally different way of looking at things.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going way past my time. It's pretty,
No, you're doing okay. We have about 10
yeah.
minutes, so you're doing fine. Unless
Okay.
there's something you really wanted to get to, but I've
Yeah.
loved your story. Thank you so
Okay.
much for sharing it with me.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to come like about where I started watching your videos. Like,
Mhm.
so through the Sam Harris debates, I used to listen to it, and it was a new way of thinking, a
Mhm.
new way of looking, and the way he brought about the whole idea of suffering as well. It was different. Like, you have to face the suffering of the world, he was saying,
Mhm.
and and the way he brought the story of Cain and Abel to that, right? Like Cain, the way Cain responded to the apparent, what do you say, the inequality of the world, the way God treated him, that's not the way you have to approach reality. And for him, reality was God, right? In a way, like that's how I understood, and that made sense. But I was listening to more of his videos, and at certain point, he had a video about I don't know who God, if I believe in God, but I act as if God exists. And here he starts speaking about that, and like at some point I felt something was missing in what he was telling. So personally, what I felt was he didn't have an idea of what grace is.
Yeah.
So I don't profess to be as intellectual or as brilliant as who Jordan Peterson is, but in my understanding of who God is and all that, I felt like he didn't have that understanding of what grace is. But the points he was making were really poignant, like they were sticking. So, but I wanted to know, like, okay, what is that about? So I just Googled, like, pastor's take on Jordan Peterson's belief in God. Because I'm not that into the whole Christian belief and how I can equate what I felt in what Jordan Peterson was missing and what he was saying. So I found a few videos of you, and that's where it started. Like I started watching your videos, and I like the way you just talk through it. Like, although most of the things don't register, I just used to put you on my earphone and work, and whenever you used to release the videos. And one thing that from your videos, one thing that registered to me was the story of Mabel. And living life as if Christ really resurrected here in this world. So that was like, I don't know, that I listened to maybe sometime in 2019, but I still remember that. And I shared it with everyone I knew, like, see this story, like, and few people like Mark and all, that story really resonated with. And that is a story about how a person in suffering can really relate to God. So all these things I took into account, and it was just a journey for me, and how I came to know about your videos. And at this point, COVID hit, and there was no meeting people. So we still used to meet in Zoom and all that, but it was never really that effective. And things in Texas, actually, they wanted to open up pretty fast. So by June of 2020, actually, they started church services again. And one thing the pastor of the church said was, this COVID is actually, the reason for COVID is actually for us to show the significance of people meeting in person. And when we meet, it's going to be like a big thing. That's what I understood when we meet back together. And so I went for the first service in June, and I felt nothing. It was more of like the same old service again, but with people more socially distanced, and I didn't feel anything. And I shared this with Mark,
Yeah.
And I said, I feel nothing. It feels like the same thing again. So he told me one thing. He told me, so what are you going to do about it? So I said, the only thing I know is to pray.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he said, okay, how do you want to pray? I'll be with you in what you want to pray about. So he said, okay, let's pray during the services. Like,
Mhm.
when the service is going on, we can pray
Mhm.
for the service, like
Mm.
God to do something, or
Mhm.
I don't know, like, and we started praying.
Mm.
And this was like a real struggle because you have to pray for like an hour or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had 2 services. So hour, then a small break, and then another.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we started to pray. I used to do it on a regular basis. But there was something missing, like, and all this while I had this issue with porn and things, like, on and off, on and off.
Yeah.
Sometimes there was a period when I used to pray for 6-7 months and didn't actually do it, but suddenly it happened.
Mhm.
So, but the thing was, I was not happy with what prayer I was doing, because subconsciously it was like having that charismatic bend and the Pentecostal bend, right? I was hoping to see, like, through this prayer, something miraculous will happen.
Yeah. Breakthrough.
Yeah, so, some work of the Spirit of God or something like that.
Yeah.
But nothing really happened. And one day Mark was asking me, like, so how do you think the prayer is going?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I wish God was more real. That's what I said.
Mhm. Mhm.
He was tangible.
Mhm.
And he was like, okay. Because he personally, what I felt, he felt like we were really praying, like we were doing something of value. But he
Mhm.
was surprised when I said, but he said, okay, let's continue praying, see how it goes.
Mhm.
And we did continue praying. And at this point, I remember a few of your videos where you started talking about what is real exactly.
Yeah.
Like, your country is real, but you can't touch and feel your country.
Yeah.
It is real.
Yeah.
And certain of John Vervaeke's videos and all this, although most of it goes above my head. Yeah. But certain things register, like,
Yeah.
like the way he started speaking about who God is, and
Yeah.
that things about knowing the P's, or 4 P's of knowing and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think then actually I still have a lot to tell, but time is.
Yeah, we are out of time.
Yeah.
Any one thing you wanted to say very quickly? I loved your story. I'm so grateful that you shared your story with me. Your story has blessed me. It really has. And you've given me insight, and you've given me a window into your life, which is very interesting, and it sounds very blessed, even though you have your struggles and you haven't had, let's say, what some people might call a breakthrough. But it's clear to me that God is with you, and God is using you, and that he won't leave you or forsake you. That seems clear to me.
Yeah. So actually there's, at least as of now, if I can take a little bit of the time.
Yep, a little bit. I've got another guy who's coming in 2 minutes, so we got to be quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So actually now I'm actually, that whole issue with porn is no longer there. Like,
good.
Since June of this year.
Amen.
Actually, when I was back in India,
Mhm.
At one point I decided that somehow it came to my mind that every night before sleeping, at some point, I'll kneel down and pray, even if it's a 5-second prayer, or 1 second or a minute. I'll just pray, and I'll make that a holy thing. So making that a holy thing, actually somehow, because mostly all these things happen during the night, when no one's around, right? And
Right.
so I just knelt down and I started praying, even a 1 second prayer. But that was like my holy place. So you can't really watch porn and have kneel down and pray after that in the holy place. That's my understanding.
Oh,
So,
amen.
but so I'm doing that. Now, maybe some days I forget or something, but that actually stopped me from actually doing what I was doing. And yeah, so yeah, there's a lot more that happened in India and after I came to Montreal and all that. But since we are out of time, maybe.
Well, I have loved your story, and I hope I'll be able to hear more of it at some point. But I'm really glad you found a rando slot, and I will
It was
send this
completely
video
random.
to you. I'll send this video to you to see if you would be open to sharing it or not. But I know you might think, what's that?
No, I'm totally open to sharing it.
Okay.
Because no one I know actually watches.
Well, people will watch, and I know you might think that there's not a lot special to your story, but there really is. Your story has blessed me, and your story has given me a window into the church around the world and to God's formation of you. And I've greatly enjoyed our hour together.
Yeah, me too. I just felt like sharing. I didn't have anything in mind. I just wanted, like I said, I wanted to just have like a fruitful conversation.
Well, you sharing your life with me was more than was really something. So I really enjoyed it, and your openness and candor, I think it will help a lot of people.
Okay, yeah, I'm totally open to sharing this.
Okay. Well, thank you, Simon, and God's blessing on you and his continued work in your life.
Yeah, you too. Bless you.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.